Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, episode 208. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are on the YouTube live stream, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to do this on Sunday nights live, but you can always find the podcast, the audio version, absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. Hey, I'm Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB. We got a Facebook fan page, all that good stuff. Tons to talk about here after, things started off rocky, first day of spring training, but a lot of good to talk about. And Elvis Andrus has returned, breaking down all this information. My good buddy, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello.
Nick, can you feel it? It's in the air. We're talking spring training and just like clockwork. Mm-hmm. Best shape of my life. I feel great. You know, it's like everybody's in the I'm in spring training shape. I know you are.
I was going to ask what kind of shape you're in.
I found Lucas Giolito's weight, all the weight that he had dropped, picked it up for him like a good teammate would.
Can you believe he was 280?
That he carries 280 fantastically. Is what he did. But 245, if a strong wind blew, he might blow right across Arizona. My goodness,
agile.
Like a beanpole right now, but it's good to hear. It's good to have actual stuff and meat and potatoes to discuss. And there's a lot to get to. As you mentioned, started out rocky, was obviously some controversial conversation to start the week, but some really good stuff in the past, 24 hours, really. So looking forward to talking about it with you.
Pat, I wanted to, I was confused. Not confused on how I should start. If Clevenger was really the thing people want to still hear about, I'm kind of done with it. But I think it's something you have to deal with, and I think we will this episode on kind of what he said and then his words against the score 670 and how he's going to try to sue them because of their interview that they had. An absolute mess that I just wish someone would say to him, please stop talking now. I just would like you to, it's best if you don't say anything anymore. So we'll focus maybe on a little bit that later this episode. But the big thing, I think, just happened, a couple hours ago. Elvis Andrus signs a 1-year, $3 million deal, returns to the Southsiders. He's never played second base before. His first positional change in 14 years. But I'm going to talk. I really am going to sell you on why this I think is a great move. But your initial thoughts, Pat, with Andrus coming back.
Well, it gives your lineup now, in my opinion, a lot of legitimacy. As I've always talked about, this lineup can be a deep lineup when you've got guys in it that can fulfill roles within the lineup. And I think Elvis Andrus fulfills a role being, it's going to be a professional at bat when he comes to the plate every time. If you have a Romy Gonzalez or a Lenin Sosa, it could be a little bit of a boom or bust, trying to figure it out, doesn't understand the league, trying to get a handle on this pitcher, pluses and minuses and failures and wins. And with Elvis Andrus, you're going to get, I think, a really consistent, player throughout the year. Now, is he going to be, it's not like that wow factor. Oh my gosh, we've got the best second baseman now in baseball, but I feel a lot more comfortable with him in the lineup than going with, possibly a rookie. And we're going to see Lenin Sosa and Romy Gonzalez. There's no doubt about it throughout the year. I guess my concern is, just shifting over to second base. Will he be able to pick it up with ease? I don't know, but from some of the things that we've seen at second base over the past couple of years, could it be any worse?
Yeah. So what? Great points. He's 34. He was a spark for the Sox when he came. Seemed to be sometimes like the only guy that might care. Had great comments after the season ended. Look, I want to come back. How come nobody picked him up? Was it a financial thing? I thought the Red Sox were going to jump all over him after they had some injuries. Now, you can worry about the fact that he's going from lifelong shortstop to second base. However, here is my big point, and I don't think it's earth-shattering, but if he's got the range as a shortstop, you are going to need range as a second baseman this season with the shift being banned. You don't have a lot of help over there. Okay. That shortstop can't wander to the other side of the bag, and so if he's got the shortstop range again at 34, I think that's going to be important and critical for the White Sox. Here's my question to you. If this move was made back around December, what would you, how would you have felt about that? Like, okay, we just are going to run it back with Elvis Andrus. Or is it more exciting now because we kind of, we didn't know what we were doing. There's some chatter of maybe Jake Berger's going to make a run at second base. And now you feel a little bit, I just feel a little bit more comfortable entering this phase leading up to opening day with a guy like Andrews.
Well, it's almost like we're starving, right? We're starving for a move to be made. If you're looking at like what would have been in December versus now, like nothing has happened. There has been so much of nothing that when you finally get a little bit of something and you go, oh, I know that guy and he did some good things and I was really happy with him last year. And yeah, this is great. Bring Elvis back. That's why you see such positivity on Twitter right now about bringing Elvis Andrus back, and it's all over our mentions
Comment
here
section,
and our comments. So it's fantastic to have him back. If it was done in December, you would go, okay, that makes sense. There's really maybe not a big second base move to be made out there. You're comfortable with this guy. He wants to be here. Why not bring him back? I don't think there's as much excitement. They'd be like, yeah, that was somewhat expected. And that's just, doing your job, right?
Yeah.
Let's do our job, bring guys in here that want to be here and fulfill a role for this team. So I think the level of excitement has been enhanced because of the valley that we've been in this time with no moves being done. No, these big trades never materialized. The market didn't come together like we thought. And there you go. There's my Rick Hahn speak.
Oh, be careful. I'm going to have to decipher and decode that. We're going to have to spend, 15, 20 minutes of trying to mince all of those words and break them up. He's a veteran. I think he's a well-liked guy. It seemed like there was some chemistry. Again, he just provided a boost. Can he do it for the whole season? And what does this mean for Romy Gonzalez and Lenyn Sosa? Here Romy Gonzalez was featured in some of the hype videos that the Chicago White Sox pushed out, and he had a great offseason, of course, as you mentioned at the top of the show. He was in his best health ever and ready to win the battle. And Grifol talked about, how impressed he's been with Romy Gonzalez because he has been at Glendale, Arizona for the last, couple weeks. Rick Hahn spoke highly about his range and his power, and here you got Elvis Andrus coming back. So I think, when you look at now, the bench, what kind of roster spots you're going to have on the bench, and does Lurie Garcia's contract still require him to be on this team, or can they say, despite the money, you're not the asset that we want right now?
I think the contract dictates that he's going to be on this roster.
Yeah.
And his flexibility dictates that he's going to be on this roster because he can play several positions, none of them very well. He's going to be here. Okay. You've got Lenyn Sosa and Romy Gonzalez that are, they're infielders by trade. So those are the spots they're going to be as, second base, shortstop type of positions. You're going to need Lurie Garcia at some point this year, Nick, and you're going to need him in multiple spots.
You're going to need Lurie Garcia.
Probably. We needed him in the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, feels like 100 years. We've needed him at some point.
Yes, it is.
And again, I've said it before, a Lurie Garcia here or there as, once a week, type of start because you're giving somebody a rest here or there is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's these extended periods of time where it's like, and you're putting them in spots in the lineup that are where you have to depend on a Lurie Garcia where he continually fails. So a guy like Lurie can, have a spot on this team until his contract is up, and then I'm done with it. But because, again, of his flexibility of being able to play multiple positions, he'll probably still be able to find his way here. And I think Lenyn Sosa and one of those guys is going to be the odd man out. But I will say this, it's a great opportunity for both of them still to display what they can do, being invitees to camp, and show what you're made of, show your stuff. Now, okay, now you've been thrown a little adversity, and when you thought you were just battling with one young guy for a spot, now you're probably looking to be battling for a backup role. But make it a hard decision on Pedro Grifol and the team, right? Show what you can do. This is a really important spring for you.
There's nothing wrong with some competition.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted my man Danny Mendick to stick
No,
around.
I know.
I wanted some competition.
You fell in love with Danny Mendick faster than I've ever seen anybody fall in love with anybody. I mean, he had about a week, and that was it for you.
Don't you remember years ago? Was it 2018 when Matt Davidson had that unbelievable start to the season? And I almost got myself a Matt Davidson jersey. I was going to start a Matt Davidson.
You can still get one.
I think they still have these shirt jerseys at Sports Depot. I just was like, this is the guy. Matt Davidson is the guy. Here we go. And it didn't work out. So, yeah, okay, Mendick's gone. He figured things out, and he went to the Mets. I like this Andres signing. I get it. Can he do it for the whole year? But I think it creates great competition. You make great points. They can learn from a veteran. They can watch how he is doing things. Not going to be happy about it, because I think Gonzalez really was feeling like this is it. I think this could be my time to shine. So we'll see. It could bring out the best in both of them here in Glendale, Arizona. So many videos, Pat, have been released over the last several days, and gosh, so many articles to pour over. Lamont Pope had some great stuff. James Fegan, of course, Scott Merkin. What of all of the stuff that you maybe watched or saw on social media or maybe on the Sox website caught your attention? What was something that you saw, a video or maybe even a comment that you're like, okay, I'm perked up a little bit here?
Well, it's got to be Liam in camp. It's got to be Liam Hendricks actually throwing a bullpen session.
Yeah,
that caught me today, and then I saw a little bit of a clip from Ethan Katz talking about Liam being in camp, and some quotes from Yaz about Liam is expecting to pitch this year, which amazing. It kind of shocked me. I did not expect to see him. I certainly didn't expect to see him throwing in a bullpen session with what he's going through right now, and the treatments have started, and from just hearing about what that does to your body and how it drains you mentally and physically, and to be in camp right now and participating, not just there just to maybe be inspiration to the team or what have you, but he's actually doing some things. So now who knows how well he was doing or how he was pitching. It doesn't matter. That's far from the important thing. And I think the thing I thought was interesting too was how Ethan Katz was emotional talking about it, and it shows what an important guy I think Liam Hendricks can be to this team. I think there are times maybe he could rub people the wrong way and be a little bit of a too much of that guy. I feel like, but I don't think that way. But I could see how other people might be like, dude, tone it down a little bit. But it's good to have him around. I think it's good for again. In a start to camp that started very cloudy in terms of storyline to where we're at right now on Sunday night as we record, and this will drop tomorrow fully. I think that's a good thing. I think those are some good things there with Elvis Andrus, and then you're talking about Liam Hendricks actually being in camp.
Yeah, that was a feel-good story, playing some long toss, maybe a bullpen session. I don't know. We won't get real concrete information and timelines, I think, closer till opening day. Rick Hahn has talked about that, just to respect Hendricks' privacy. I don't think he's going to be answering those type of questions, but having him around, great point. That's the good you want to focus on. And there's other good, again, it's a lot of words, but when you read some of these articles and you read some of these blurbs and what these guys are saying, I read into it maybe a little bit too much, if you read between the lines. And something that really caught my attention was from Moncada and Robert. James Fegan of The Athletic, outstanding article on Robert. If you have an opportunity to check it out. And there was a great write-up by Moncada. I believe that was Lamont Pope in the Chicago Tribune. And Moncada, 27 years old, Pat, entering his 7th season with the Chicago White Sox. 7th. I had to do a double take. Of course, the 2019 campaign is what we're all hoping he returns to: 25 home runs, 79 RBIs. And we want to maybe even more. Can you give us even a little bit more? And in the article, he talked about just, maybe he came back a little early last year from the oblique, and talked a little bit about, his off-season regimen and what he's trying to do to not get sore so early. But when you really, this is me, this is how I took the article. To me, it's all about the World Baseball Classic. This means a ton to him that he is playing for Team Cuba. And same thing with Robert Jr. I guess we're calling him now Luis Robert Jr. They are all kinds of excited for this opportunity. Of course, they don't want to embarrass themselves. They don't want to embarrass the team. And there's extra motivation, coming into camp. And there's also, I get a sense of a different message that Grifol is sending to players, that maybe Moncada listened out of respect to Tony La Russa, but didn't really buy into it. But there's something clicking, I think, with Grifol and the coaching staff. Grifol said he is returning every call. He's returning every text message. He is asking the right questions. He is starting to buy into what I'm trying to sell here. And Grifol even talked MVP category. Now, he is a polarizing figure. You either almost love him or you hate him. And boy, just mentioning Yoan Moncada gets people going in all different kinds of directions. But I don't know. This could be something that something clicks with Moncada through Grifol. And I get what this guy's saying. I want this. I've been hungry for more information. I wasn't getting pushed. I wasn't getting all of this new language from the TLR era. I like this. I think I can thrive under this. So that's been exciting for me to see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right with Moncada being a polarizing figure amongst White Sox fans. And I think it's a lot to do with, again, I think you hit it right on the head. It's like he wasn't being pushed by anybody in the organization prior to this year. And I think, at some point, athletes have to be challenged. Right. You have to put a challenge down for guys to perform and not just, take it easy. Don't run hard. Don't do this. We need you. And I get it. You need them in the lineup. And there's some, sense, I guess you can make of, not putting your full effort in on every single play so you don't get hurt. But at some point you have to perform and you have to challenge guys and they have to overcome adversity. And they have to feel like it's got to be hard now, like in terms of the spring. And that's what I got from Pedro Grifol is like, listen, we're here on business, right? He talked about, you're not going to get a jokey Pedro Grifol right now. I'm taking this very seriously. And I think that's good for camp right now, right? Make practice, make things hard, make them challenging. I think you tweeted out about Joe Kelly not taking pitchers fielding practice. And for the first time in his career, that's never happened. And they're doing those things. This team needs to do those little things because they were so piss poor in terms of their fielding. They need to return to do these types of things now, work really hard at it. So it becomes second nature when you get to the, when the games count.
Yeah, Joe Kelly was talking about doing PFPs, which is pitcher fielding practice. And good Lord, I did that in high school. I did it in college. Like that's a second language to pitchers. You're basically, working on, covering bunts, covering first base. If there's a roller that's hit up the first base line, you're just fielding your position, trying to turn double plays. Pitchers do not get a very good rap when it comes to fielding. They don't. And that's why you have to appreciate guys like Mark Burley, who, gobbled up the Gold Gloves. It's to be able to field your position well. That just, man, that helps your team defense so much more. I can't believe he's never done PFPs in 13 years. Maybe he was talking specifically about the little wiffle ball drills that we're doing, but that's shocking to me if he's never done that. Merkin had a little write-up on whitesox.com. Here's just a little brief segment of that it caught my attention. Grifol, who has made the early workouts a little bit more intense, a little closer to game speed. It's something the White Sox players requested through off-season conversations with their new manager. So here's a guy in Grifol that has prioritized communication from day one. You're going to know where I stand. Our coaching staff, we're going to be on the same page. I want to be on the same page and speak this language with my players. And it seems like we've got an open communication, open door policy, so to speak. And I don't know if it's been like that in previous eras, but it sure seems like it's all systems go here, where they're able to chime in. And this is what I think we need. And this is what I want more of. Like, give me more. Give me more. I want to learn. How are things being done in other organizations? What can we do different? And if they're giving him the avenue, he should take full opportunity of that. Grifol should say, great, you want it. I'm going to give you more and more. I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to drown you. But if you want this, we're going to do this. And I think, boy, that's smart. Play with some intensity, some urgency. And, of course, people are going to say, well, now you're going to talk about getting hamstrings pulled and you're going to get injuries because guys are going full speed. I think it's maybe the opposite. Maybe you weren't going hard enough in Glendale, and then you tried to really ramp it up in late March to start the season, and that's when you had problems.
Well, Nick, it's just like anything. It makes me laugh when people say that. It's like, oh, don't want to push them too hard. They might get injury. It's like, why do people work out, right? They work out to get stronger, right? You lift a weight. You do it enough times, and the next time you do it, it should feel like it's not so heavy, so you can add more weight to it, right? Because your muscle tears, then grows, and then tears again, and it grows again. Shouldn't that be what they're doing? Build up that callus, so then they're again ready to go for when the season is really here and among us. And I'm all about it. Set the tone. You've talked about it. Set the tone. So when April gets here and you're into March, you're playing the first game. It's not a surprise or a shock, and you're not trying to just ease into the season. It's like, man, we got to take these games from the go seriously. And I've done a complete 180 from where I used to be on it. It's like these games are all important. And I like the fact that Pedro is treating everything as its importance. Spring training has an importance. Maybe it's a different importance for each guy. There's not everybody's fighting for, a roster spot on this team. So different guys, it's different for them, but everybody's got something that they're working on or trying to improve or get ready for, get themselves, the time in spring to get their body strong enough. Whatever you're working on, it's all important. And I think that message has been heard loud and clear.
Luis Robert is on a mission as well. Again, great words, but we need to see it. An outstanding article by James Fegan in The Athletic recently. If you have the opportunity, I can kind of give you the synopsis. Robert has had ongoing conversations in the offseason with Grifol, with new hitting coach Jose Castro. Robert gets what's going on. Robert's like, I have not lived up to my potential. I can't stay on the field. I need to play 140 plus games. I did not take things serious last off season. I kind of eased into things, and I've changed my mentality, my process, and how I go about doing things. I've done it for me, but I think if you read between the lines, it's for this World Baseball Classic. I really do.
Yeah.
I really think there is this excitement and this pride, of course, to play for Team Cuba and into some competitive games, here in March that I think is only going to benefit once the season starts. And, he went on to talk about really the rhythm and timing of his swing, which I thought was an important note. When you are healthy and you're getting yourself into a rhythm, no matter what you are doing in life, and then all of a sudden you're on the shelf for a little while, you have to ramp back up. It takes you time to ramp back up. And stop, start with Eloy Jimenez, with Moncada, with Robert last year, with Tim Anderson, Grandal. You can't get into a rhythm. You can't get going. And I think that's that's what Robert realizes, of course, and Grafol realizes it. I mean, everybody uses the term MVP with this guy. Like, he could be an MVP if only he can stay healthy. And look, maybe I drink too much of this Kool-Aid, these first few weeks of spring training, but I like to hear what was going on in the offseason. Tell me why this is different. How should I believe that this season is going to be different for you? And I've heard some different things. Again, I'm taking them at their word, but what Robert is talking about and changing, in his off-season program, and again, it gets me excited because of what the potential is for guys like Moncada and Robert.
Yeah, it's again, it's nice to be at the point now where the season is, going to be starting soon, and spring training is here, and there's some stories that are out there, and we actually get to see guys in uniform, and we kind of start to move away from the things that were left undone in the off season. It's go time now, and it gets me excited as well. Now, I'm interested to see how these guys perform in the World Baseball Classic. And if they fail, I'm not going to get too upset about it. But I hope it gets them in some sort of a rhythm and a focus that will carry over into the regular season. So it may be a blessing. And I think it's like, listen, I think I've got to talk. I think all White Sox fans have to talk ourselves out of, oh gosh, I'm scared if they stay healthy, this, or if they do. It's like, listen, we just, all we can do is root. We have no control over what happens with people's bodies. So just try and roll with the roller coaster and enjoy the ups and the downs of the season.
My worry is that Eloy Jimenez is going to see a lot of time in right field during the World Baseball Classic.
Whiskers.
It's something that keeps me up. That is something that keeps me up at night.
Really? I think it's your newborn son. Well, not newborn anymore. Vinny's almost 1, but he's still keeping you up at night. So I think that is what's keeping you up.
Well, while I'm up, I'm thinking about Eloy Jimenez playing.
Or are you being woken up and then you're going to wake up Vinny? Hey,
I have to talk to somebody about this.
I'm really upset if Eloy plays right. Let's wake up. Let's talk about it.
So you've got video on Moncada and Robert, and there's no shortage of pitching video. And
we talked video and guys in the cage. Getting a lather.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the slow-mos too, when they're really
baby.
And Cease's got the mustache back, which that is huge. That is big, and that's going to be important. And I think that's just for his whole demeanor is going to change now that he's got the mustache back. He had a sabbatical in the offseason. It happens to everyone.
Yeah.
But the mustache is back and the mentality is back. But look, I'm into the Lucas Giolito bandwagon train. I'd like to get back on, please. He's slimmed down. He looks agile. He looks flexible. I like what he's saying. Does it make sense? Should I get my hopes up?
You have a weird smile on your face right now where you're talking about Lucas Giolito. It's like you're like Lucas Giolito. I'm into it.
But is that ridiculous of me to put hope in Lucas Giolito? Because
I don't think so. Because we've seen enough. The thing is, his whole career with the White Sox has been very up and down, and he's coming off a year where he was a down. So maybe we're riding that roller coaster back up. I just really think it's like, listen, man, I think for him, you don't have to try and reinvent your body all the time. Just, go with what worked in the past, and don't put yourself in the lab and try and reinvent yourself and Frankenstein yourself into this 280-pound monster again.
I wonder who told him, like, you know what, just get gigantic, get the biggest you possibly can, so you can't even move your upper body, just look big. And it might, there could be, who knows, you might strike fear in hitters right from the get-go. I want to know I guess, hey, I'm stronger, I'm going to throw harder. I don't know who said that to him. But
you've told me for a long time it's all about your flexibility, and I believe that 100%. In fact, coincidentally enough, I was talking to my nephew yesterday, and he's a high school player. He plays on a travel team, and he's he's a slight build, kid, but he's got a lot of talent. And he's like, "Oh, I got to bulk up, Uncle Pat. I got to put on some weight, and I got to do this." I said, "Sage, man, flexibility is where it's
I'll
at.
talk to him.
Don't
If you
worry
want,
about."
I can talk to him.
I was talking to him about strengthening his hands and wrists. Hawk. I'm
Mm,
doing a lot of hawkism, bat
yeah.
speed. Don't worry about bulking up. It's not where your power comes from. It's bat speed through the zone. And I said, "Take it from me, somebody that's never played ever."
Take it from me.
Don't listen to your coaches. Listen to the guy that's never
take
played
it
an
from
inning in
me,
his life.
Lurie Garcia, in moderation. I think an old school thing that players used to do was pitchers, especially to strengthen their forearm, is they would stick their arm in a bucket of rice, and you'd have to try to move your arm through the bucket of rice. They might still do it now, but that's how you would strengthen the tendons in the forearm and moving your arm through just a big old bucket of dry rice.
Maybe maybe Gio last year was eating the rice, and that's how he bulked
I got
up.
confused. We were in a lockout. No one explained what was going on. I couldn't check
was
in
eating
with
buckets and buckets of rice.
Way too much rice. So, I'm happy that Giolito seems to be in a better space mentally. He got himself physically right. He seems to be getting back into that repeatable motion, flexibility, the arm whip, all that kind of stuff that we saw, a few seasons ago. Like what I've heard from Lance Lynn, talking about leadership. He's a guy that I think commands the room. When he starts talking, I think you listen. And boy, I am so excited for the Michael Kopech 2023. I really am. I am still a little concerned about that knee, but it sounds like from some of the stuff I read this past weekend, he's going to be ready for opening day. And Grafol said you could see him in the second series. So I'm saying, I think Merck even tweeted it, opening home opener. Are we seeing this guy for the home opener against the Giants? Wow, electric. That place is going to be absolutely electric, especially when they sweep the Houston Astros and they start off. Are we calling it putting a bet, Nick? No, you know what? That's just because I got a little too excited about the Dylan Cease stuff and the Giolito. It's probably not going to be a sweep. We'll figure that out later. We'll go predictions later.
Tough to sweep teams, we know that.
It is, especially in Houston to start the season off. Hey, that would be outstanding if you can get Kopech. And what he said, wow, he wants to go 30 plus starts and 180 to 200 innings. He pitched 120 innings last year. He had 25 starts. That's where I would love to see him. I'd love to see him at 30 plus starts. 180, man, I had him at more of the 160 range, 170. If he's talking 180, 200, watch out. That's great to hear.
Well, he's done a really good job in terms of getting himself to this point, I think, and getting his body right, and to the point where he's ready when we're talking about putting that kind of workload on him. But he's going to have to go through some learning, as Cease did, as Cease became a legitimate starter in this league. It's pitching to contact and pitching to your defense sometimes, and not so reliant on the strikeout, because I still think that can be a bugaboo for him. It's like, listen, if you're going to pitch that many innings, you're going to have to keep your pitch count down. So let's hope that he's been watching his mustachioed brother and get out there and be efficient, right?
Yeah.
So
it is about being efficient, and it's hopefully trusting the defense. But I get why pitchers didn't want to trust the defense last year. It was absolutely awful. I think it will be better if you've got a proven right fielder in left field, of course, and an actual right fielder playing right field, and that's Oscar Colas. But we don't know what we don't know yet.
Is that the pronunciation? Is that the correct Colas?
I've heard it different times. When I interviewed Connor McKnight for Locked On last week, he said Colas.
Yeah,
I've heard it pronounced different times.
Yeah,
different ways.
Remember we had the Robert. Now
sure,
Robert Jr. or is it Robert Jr.? What do we call him? We don't even know.
I think it's just Junior now. Might as well just call him Junior.
Can I call him JR?
Please do.
Yeah, I'll
Please
call him
do.
JR.
You should start that. Years ago, it was Alexi Ramirez, and then all of a sudden it was LSA Ramirez. It's like, what? What? I thought this was Alexi. What
Who are
happened
these
here?
people?
So I don't know, man. Pronunciations change. We all might be saying it wrong, and then one day, down the road, it's like, you know what? It's actually this. Okay, sounds great. So, who have you not heard about that you're interested in? Have you like someone hiding in plain sight?
Well, I mean, MC21, because
Yep.
we are on YouTube live right now.
Yeah.
We got a chat going. He wants to know if there's been any news about Benintendi, which
Mm.
I've seen like him catch a fly ball. I have not heard.
He's-
I have not heard anything about it. I guess no news good news with Andrew Benintendi. It's like I see MC21
the
put that
big
up there,
news
but
would have to be the hand. How does the
mm,
hand feel? Is he all systems go? Any pain hitting? Is he has restrictions right now? That's my biggest concern. I've just seen some video and some images of him out there doing workouts and stuff, but I want to know about Benintendi. I mean, I think he can also be such a difference maker. Banning the shift. You've got, I don't know what kind of power he's going to bring, but he get 20 home runs. I mean, you should at Sox Park, and playing left field. But again, that hand's got to be right. But I feel like I'm comfortable with him. The other man in question is Yasmani Grandal,
mhm.
and boy, his workout, the videos that they're showing of him, like, pressing, squatting logs on his back, or like doing the whole like rope stuff and the medi ball. And
I think I
those are
saw
all,
him boxing a kangaroo.
yeah, it's all Rocky 4 when he's like training in, like,
Yeah.
what is he, in Russia or something, in some cabin, and he's doing
Mhm.
all of these, just chopping wood, and he's like pushing things up a hill that don't need to be pushed up a hill. And it's wonderful, man. It's great. I love all these workout clips that the Sox are sending our way. And that's what I've seen of Yasmani Grandal. And, it sounds like he's healthy. Sounds like he's finally right. We've covered all of his offseason stuff of working with a Chicago Blackhawks goalie instructor. And, he's been trying to, reimagine, his form behind the plate, because he is not getting any younger and he has had knee problems. Can he catch 140 games? I don't think so. I don't. I want him to, but I just don't think he can.
Well, I mean, Grafal did have an interesting comment about that this week, and it's like, asking if if we'll see Yaz as a DH, and and Grafal just said, "Well, Yaz is our catcher." I mean, I'm sure he'll get some at bats at DH here or there, but I'm not thinking of him as a designated hitter. He's our catcher. So I think in Grafal's mind, he's going to catch, and if he's not catching, he's probably not going to be in the lineup, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no depth. Talking to, I had a guest on Locked On last week from a contributor for Future Sox, Clinton Cole, and he very knowledgeable about prospects and young guys, and just there's no depth. There's really
Mhm.
no depth at the catcher position. Hackenberg is a name that he gave me to look out for, a guy that might have an easy path, and I shouldn't say easy, but a more direct path through the system, because there's not a lot blocking him. Like, they just
Yeah.
don't have, again, going back to why maybe that rumor of looking into Sean Murphy was actually true, because we just don't have it. We don't have
Well,
catcher depth.
that'll be something interesting to watch, Nick, if we're talking about, possible trades. Now that you have Elvis Andrus back, and you have, two seemingly, almost ready big league guys with Lenyn Sosa and Romy Gonzalez at second base, and you've got the young kid that I can't remember his name now, Montgomery, right?
Yeah.
That's a shortstop by nature, but in the minors now, and highly touted in baseball perspectives, I think is one of the top prospects of the White Sox right now. So you've got some young infielders in your system. We'll call it in your system. Does one of those guys become expendable, and maybe that gets you some depth at a position you need, like catcher?
Well, that was the old way, right? It was you were giving away a lot of young talent for some ready to go players, or maybe some players that you were only going to get like 1 year out of. I
Mm.
always think of Jeff Samardzija when we think about, just giving away youth for just trying to catch something for a year or so. And that didn't work out. And there's been a lot of moments like that. I like the arms that we have in the system. Like Noah Schultz seems to have some really nasty stuff, and I don't know when we're going to necessarily see these guys. And you don't want to rush guys, but Davis Martin is still around. Sean Burke is probably has the opportunity to be the new Davis Martin. Um, I think the fact that you've got Elvis Andrus and what you could have depth wise between Gonzalez and Sosa down the line, you're probably not going to make a big splash at second base.
Yeah, the reason why I bring it up, it's like you've got some guys that might be blocked for a little bit, and if you need to make a move, that might be
Is that a
if people are.
mid-year? Is that a
That's
trade
what
deadline move?
that could be. I mean, if you're looking at as you get into the back half of the season, and you're talking about maybe at that point looking to give Yaz a blow here or there, and you're going to need some catching help, I think. So if you've got, guys that maybe you could sell a little high on and get some catching depth. I mean, catchers are, not going to come cheap, whether they're, a starting catcher or a backup catcher. They're highly needed. So it was just something that popped into my mind now that you have Elvis Andrus here. Now, granted, it's only for a year. And then the conversation will come up again about Jake Berger. What is Jake Berger's future like of this team? And is there a suitor out there in baseball that would take him given his injury history?
I think you'd have to package him up probably with somebody else, but now you're really looking at like where does Jake Berger fit in? I don't know. And when you're thinking about the 40 man, you're thinking about versatility. Guys that could come off the bench. To your original point around Lurie Garcia, and I joke about this as I think a lot of Sox fans do. He does give you some versatility. Yeah, I'm not terribly excited, but you don't want to put him in moments where he's just going to fail. You're not going to hit him lead off. You're not going to put him in matchups. That's what Grifol, hopefully, in the coaching staff, they set him up for success. In
you're
moments
right.
when he can succeed, but he gives you some versatility. Merck mentioned, maybe Victor Reyes is going to make this club. Some outfield depth. Jake Marisnik. I don't know. Like, I don't see Berger playing second base. He doesn't have a lefty bat. I think you're blocked somewhere in DH. He's talked about, improving his fielding and working on that. He's a guy to root for. He's a guy that is easy to root for after everything that he's gone through. And we saw some of it last season.
Yes.
We saw flashes of the power. And, he had a stretch where he had like the game-winning RBI for X amount of games. It was like, wow, this is the Jake Berger era. So happy for him, but it just wasn't sustainable. And it's a bummer that he's going to be held maybe back. And I want to see him get playing time. And I'm sure there's a team that can use him. I don't know if it's with the White Sox this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch that because again, for him, you do root for a guy like him. It's a great story, and you want to see that story have a happy ending. I just don't know if, again, he hasn't proven to be versatile enough. And when we did see him at third, though he was providing a lot in terms of power, and you mentioned the game-winning hits that he had, and it was fantastic. I didn't see a whole lot at third base that made me want to go, give me Moncada back at third.
Oh, that's what I say to people when they're bashing Moncada. I'm like, sure, he seems lackadaisical, and yes, sometimes on those slow rollers, you're like, here goes a hamstring.
Yeah.
But he is a good third baseman.
Oh, yeah. I think he's an underrated third baseman, in my opinion, in terms of the grand scheme of things. And that's because the offense isn't there to assist him with that.
Yeah. I believe he was a finalist, in 2020 for the Gold Glove. I think he can get back in that conversation. You think back to what we've had over the years, after a Joe Creedy, like what has been going on at third base, and it hasn't been much.
There are some guys, professional athletes, that are so smooth at what they do. It looks effortless, and it looks like they're not trying hard. And I liken him almost to like watching Patrick Kane play hockey. When Kane, like you watch Kane, and he's like, he doesn't look like he's moving all that fast all the time. It just, but he's so silky smooth, and he's so great
All
at
in
what he
one
does.
motion. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, effortless. And I think that's
Yeah.
how Mikata plays third. Now, offensively, we need to see more, but in terms of
Yeah.
his defense, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
I was going back to some older articles, just entertaining the idea of, could Moncada move to second? What if Moncada went to second? You've talked about this.
I've talked about it
And
and
then
mocked openly by many
and
people.
and, and no shame there. And Berger goes to third. And I was reading some articles going back to Ricky Renteria and them and Han talking about after the switch was made from second to third and the difference that they saw. And Renteria had a point of, at second base, it seemed like things might have been too easy for Moncada, and he had lapses. He had like brain lapses, and it might have carried over to the plate. And he just wasn't as focused. Where third base, you have to be on all of the time, and it's such a reaction thing, and you have to be in the game and focused. And Renteria said that translated to the plate. Now, of course, we saw that 2019 season and haven't seen anything yet. And that is the hope. It's the big hope that we as Sox fans, are clinging to heading into 2023 is hoping that these guys can return to either accustomed levels or to a level we just haven't seen yet. Can you just give me a level? Like, give me something to work with. Pat, I don't know how much time you want to spend on this Mike Clevenger mess. I've talked about it, and I've read, the articles, both sides of the story, and watched his press conference, and it's a distraction. I don't care what you say. It is a distraction. It might be a small distraction. It might be, but it is. And I just wish he would just stop talking, because the more he says, the worse. And I think I get why he got in front of a camera on, what was it, Wednesday, but I think he thought like he was going to make friends maybe with reporters, and like they were going to look at him and be like, oh, okay, maybe we'll be chummy now. But these guys have a job to do, and they will absolutely, rip you to shreds in the papers, with what you say. Like, we're not buddies here. And then, the whole 670 interview with Olivia Feinstead, and how his comments, like, what? You're going to sue 670 The Score, one of the largest, radio stations, because of that? Like, you just need to stop talking at this point. Like, please just stop. Just go about your business. You're in camp. Okay. I wish MLB had a rule, or the commissioner would just say, hey, you're under investigation. You're just not going to be at camp. We're going to wait for this to figure itself out. But it's a mess, and I don't want to focus too much on it, because there is a lot of good. I think Hendricks is a great man. Look at the Hendricks stuff. Keep that in the front. And all the other, now we've got Andrews and, everything that all the positive that you've read and you've seen. I'm trying not to focus too much, but it involves the White Sox. So it's like, it has to be mentioned.
Yeah. I think, Nick, I'll say one good thing about this whole Clevenger deal. He did address his teammates and talk to them about it. And who was it? Somebody had some positive things to say about it, and that they appreciated the fact that he addressed
I think it was Kendall Graveman.
It was Graveman. You're right. It was Kendall Graveman. And again, it doesn't absolve him for anything that he may have done, but it was at least stand up of him to at least address the group and try and, feel like he's a part of the team, and in that way, shape, and form. So I guess that's good. I agree with you. It's like, listen, good on you to speak to your team. good on you to get in front of the cameras and let people ask you questions, because it shows that you're not hiding from it. I think that's a good thing. But what comes out of your mouth next is really what you have to watch, because it's a delicate dance, right? You're being accused of something, whether you did do them or not do them. If you didn't do them, you want to scream to the mountaintops that this isn't me, and I understand that, but you have to be very careful about how you go about things. I don't think it does you any service to go after any kind of media outlet, because ultimately, the media has the cameras on, and the microphone's open 24/7, and you're just creating a world of issue for yourself, because they're the ones that are getting the content to the fans and giving the fans the voice, and that just stirs up more problems for you. So just, you're better off to not go after the media. It doesn't really work out well for anybody. So I agree. I think he should put on the Andy Reid mask that Andy wore during COVID, that big, huge
Feedback.
bird beak feed bag looking mask, and not speak. And that would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, a comment here on our during our YouTube feed. How do guys in the clubhouse interact with them? And I don't know. I've heard some thank yous, thank you for addressing us. Thank you for the apologies. But who knows? I mean, I don't know what some of these players, and what they got to go home to, and what their families are saying. Like, I can't believe he's in camp. Like,
Mhm.
Families with kids or something. I don't know. I think it ultimately should be just left to the team. Like, address the team, keep it as a team matter. But I think he's regretting going in front of the cameras and thinking that he was going to maybe get some sympathy from
Yeah.
reporters.
Again, I think it's okay that he did it. I just think some of the things he said was, and not the best choice,
Yeah,
right? Listen,
yeah,
the things you say, and those guys, like, I would love to be a PR person. You go up there and say, I'm under investigation for things that I didn't do. I'm looking forward to having my side of the story heard, and whatever else from there. And then the questions that you get, you either, no comment on that. I'm not allowed to talk about that situation. Thank you for the question. I can't really answer that at this time. I appreciate you asking me that question and following up, blah, 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 blah. But just keep it there, right?
yeah.
Don't go idiot mode.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty bold for him to say, I've done nothing wrong. I don't know. Like, I agree with your take. Like, if you're going to talk, minimal, just absolutely minimal. Don't commit to anything. Don't make any drastic announcements or confessions. If you want to get in front of the camera to just show some goodwill or something, that hey, I'm doing this, then just keep it basic.
Yeah.
But I think the closed door talking to the team, great. You want to do that, but stop talking to the media right now. Like,
Mm.
just this shouldn't be a thing that you're doing. And hopefully the White Sox had that conversation with him from a PR standpoint. But there's good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff to pick apart. How much you want to believe in the good stuff, it's up to you. Fan
Mm.
how you want to fan. If you're not into the Moncada hype and the Giolito hype, I get it. I totally get it. I just don't want to give up right now. I
Now's
want
not
to.
the time to be
No.
pessimistic about the season. The season hasn't started yet. We have plenty of time to, rake this team over the coals if they're underperforming when we get to the All-Star break. But for now, again, it's got to be sunshine and rainbows and lollipops, right? It's spring training, for crying out
Yeah.
loud. We're
Yeah.
going to be watching people do glorified practices and salivate over it. You might
Yeah.
as well enjoy it.
Yeah. And the first game is Saturday, February 25th, 31 games, I believe, only 6 of them televised, which is not a shocker if you've been following spring training baseball. It just doesn't work out. You do not get a lot of games. It's a shame. It's a bummer. I'm sure there's some sort of crazy explanation behind it. Is it because it's during the day, Chicago time, and, advertising is weak, or the viewership? I don't know. But it's, take advantage of whatever you can get. There'll be some games on the radio. There'll be some games televised. The first game will be televised on February 25th against the Padres, I believe. So you can't stop what's coming. It's happening here.
Yep. Yeah. And again, you can, like you said, listen to it on the radio on, you know, ESPN Chicago
Yeah, there you
with,
go. Plug
with
it.
Connor.
Plug it.
Connor will be doing the pre and post, and Len and
Yep.
DJ play by
Yep.
play. It's going to be fantastic. Listen to it
Yeah.
on the radio. It'll be great.
Absolutely. ESPN 1000. Pat, buddy, this was good, man. It's fun to talk baseball action, right? It's fun to talk
Yeah. Things.
actual activities, no more hypotheticals. Those are still in there, but now we've got some proof. We've
Yeah.
got some actual stuff, some concrete stuff to go off of. And we get a better insight of what has been going on this offseason. What have you done?
Apparently,
Uh,
people are losing weight.
yeah, they are, man. They're on a program. They're on a real program, and well, it's easy. Like when you put on 280, I guess it
It's
just
not
comes
really
off,
easy.
right? No,
Nope.
okay,
Yeah. It doesn't
sorry.
just melt off.
100% my fault for thinking that way. um, well, he looks great. Looks agile and just spry, really spry. Like Kramer is the ball man. Just agile, quick. So that's what I want to see.
It felt like looking in a mirror when I saw him in that picture today. It's fantastic.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Really enjoyed this conversation, and we should have a very fun conversation next Sunday. We can kind of tease it. We're going to be talking about this part 2 of the Last Comiskey documentary that's going to be coming out. If you don't know what this is, boy, it is a YouTube channel. The brothers, Mike and Matt Flesh, have created this amazing documentary on the 1990 season, the last year of Old Comiskey, and what an exciting year that was for the White Sox. And they had a part 1 that came out like right after, I think it was the beginning of 2021 or maybe the winter of 2020. And we had them on. Such a great, oh my goodness, really an intriguing conversation. The documentary, I think it's multiple parts, but they're like 15, 20 minutes. You can find it on YouTube, Last Comiskey, and they're on Twitter as well at Last Comiskey. This part 2, man, it's going to be broken up into 3 segments, and they're going to come on and talk about this part 2. It is chock full of interviews and from those great 80s, 90s, early 90s teams, tons of new footage. So we're going to be talking to one of the brothers next Sunday about this big part 2 of Last Comiskey.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch it. I haven't watched the full episode yet. You had sent me like a peek behind the curtain. I watched a little bit of it today, but some great gets by the guys. Ozzie Guillen featured prominently, Blackjack McDowell, Ron Kittle. So they had a lot of Lance Johnson talked to in this one. So a lot of great. Some of your favorites from when you were a kid, just watching this team grow, as you're growing up.
Brings back so many memories.
Nancy Faust, our
yes.
favorite.
Yeah.
Love hearing Nancy whenever we can. So great job by those guys. Can't wait to watch the rest of it and talk to them next week.
Yeah, it's something definitely to consume kind of in these spring training moments when you don't have a lot of games to watch. If you have some downtime, they're going to be releasing it in 3 different parts, and we'll talk to them next Sunday. So, Pat, always a pleasure, buddy. We'll do it next Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be here for you, bro.
Good. Folks, really appreciate you jumping on and joining us for this live episode on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe and, try to check this out every Sunday night. We try to do it at 8:30, but you can get the audio version absolutely everywhere you get your podcasts, and subscribe and pass us along to other Sox fans in your life. We do appreciate it. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TV. We've got a Facebook fan page. So until next time, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Go Sox.